Welcome back to another live and amplified indie fusion podcast. I'm your host, Tom Quart, and we are back at it again with another amazing podcast. Today, we have a very special guest joining us, Katie Wallace. How's it going today?
Great. How are you doing?
Doing wonderful. It's a wonderful Central Texas day.
Yes. The
I
leaves are falling.
Yes, I didn't have to go down to College Station like I originally thought I was going to, so
That's
it was
always a
good.
win.
Yeah, driving down to College Station isn't always the funnest thing to
Yes.
do. So.
Yes.
But you're also talking to the guy that drives out through West Texas just on a whim.
Yeah.
So, you know. Oh, so you're based out in East Texas. How's everything
Yeah.
going there?
It's going great. So I work part-time as a stagehand for a venue out here called the Neon Moon. So
Mm,
we get to do a lot of really fun stuff. I get to work with a lot of really cool artists, and we've got a lot of cool new concerts coming in November. Bree Bagwell's going to be there, and so I'm
nice,
really looking forward to that.
nice.
But it's a fun town. It's super small, but there's a lot of really cool musical things happening, and it's really cool that I could connect with the right people to be a part of that community in such a small area.
Yeah, for sure. It's a Neon Moon. I'm almost positive they wrote a song about that once.
Oh yes, yes, yeah. Brooks and Dunn.
Yep, yep, yep.
And we hear it all the time up there. Number
Right.
one most requested song.
Does so you're a stagehand, so are you like
Yes.
helping get people on and off stage? Is that kind of
Uh,
what you're doing?
yeah, so we set up all the production for the show. So we'll
Okay.
help unload the buses for the artists. We'll get stuff plugged in. My husband does runs the sound there.
Nice.
So we just get everything ready for the show. And then once the artist gets off stage, we tear everything down, get them packed up and loaded up and back out on the road again. Um,
Nice.
and I get to do that at a few different venues. So it's really, really fun and really cool.
What's the coolest show you've gotten
To do
yeah.
Randy Travis,
Oh
and
wow.
it was his first show back, and it was a long time. It was like 12 or 15 years
Hmm.
because of his stroke, and it was the coolest show ever. His team was the nicest group of people, and we got to meet Randy Travis. Of course, he can't talk, but you can just tell he's so happy to be doing what he's doing. He's so animated, and he just communicates through his hands and his body language. But he was so happy and just so friendly, and his team was just awesome to work with. They have like this fun little prank that they like to play on everybody, where they'll be like, "Okay, you've been working really hard. There's a cooler over there, and Randy Travis autographed some sports drinks. So go get you one of those autographed sports drinks." And when you open the cooler, a giant fake rubber snake pops out, and it's like you scream bloody murder, and they just get like the biggest laugh out of it, and they prank everybody. They do it with the fans, they do it with everybody. If someone hangs out after the show and they want an autograph from Randy Travis, they're like, "Yeah, but first you gotta go get one of those drinks out of that cooler." So it's just like the funniest thing. You get in these situations and you're nervous because you're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm working around like big music business people," and then they're just normal people and they just want to joke and have fun, so it makes
Right.
the day a lot more enjoyable.
Right. If somebody told me, like, I'm unfortunately I'm that guy that I'm just so skeptical that I would just ruin the fun.
Yeah.
It's I've had so many people play pranks on me. It's like, oh, you want me to go get an autographed sports
Yeah,
drink?
sure, yeah.
Okay. Here you
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, and of course I'm like,
that's funny.
okay.
And how long have you been doing that?
So for a little over a year, it was a year back in May. So,
Mm,
and I've gotten to work with all sorts of artists, Stony LaRue, Randy Rogers, the Bellamy Brothers. Sometimes I'm selling merch, Neil
nice.
McCoy. So it's super cool, and we handle everything from
Hmm.
setting up to tear down to merch and hospitality, just kind of whatever they need.
Yeah, absolutely. Those venues, especially in smaller towns, those venues are always really cool. It's
Yes.
when I lived out in New Mexico, we had a similar venue that he would bring out a lot of West Texas or like the Texas Red Dirt artists. But then
Yes.
as towards the end of my time in New Mexico, he started bringing out bigger acts. Like he brought out the Bellamy Brothers, the Wailers, and just stuff like that. And it was like,
Yeah.
that is really cool. Like, especially in a small town, you said your
Yeah.
population is 500.
500, yes. And what's crazy is like, I know Randy Rogers and the Bellamy Brothers, sometimes they'll bring out like 400 to 500 people. So,
Mhm.
like, you know, that's like the whole town, which it's super cool. So,
Mhm.
everybody comes out and they show up.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's like it's a big to do, and not only are you
Yeah,
bringing almost everybody in the town out, but you're also bringing people from neighboring cities, and
exactly.
you know,
Yes, yes. Yeah,
especially
people will drive out.
yeah, especially being that far from Dallas, because like
Yeah,
normally shows like that you'd reserve for like a Dallas
yes,
venue, and
yes.
it's like, oh man, you mean I get to go see the Bellamy Brothers for?
In
I'm
my
sure,
hometown. Yeah.
yeah, and it, probably not that. Like, I mean, I'm sure it's still probably
Yeah,
expensive, but not as
exactly.
bad as
Yeah.
Dallas. So
Yes, absolutely. In a
yeah,
world where there's like $500 tickets nowadays.
right, right. So you're born, raised East Texas, or
No, I was born in Indiana, Greenwood, Indiana, and I moved to Texas when I was 8. I moved to Lindale, Texas, and went to high school there. Went to school with Miranda Lambert. I didn't know
oh,
her, but I went to school with her and lived there up until I graduated. And then I lived in Dallas, Fort Worth for a little while, and then ended up back here in East Texas. Rent's a lot more affordable out here. And my husband and I, we got some land and built a tiny house. And we were like, we want to do music full time. We can't do that if we have this super expensive rent hanging over our head. So we built a tiny house so we could be debt free and
mm,
really pursue music full time.
nice. How do you like the tiny house living?
It's awesome. It's so cool to own something. I would have went a little bit bigger if I would have known what I know now, but we designed it to where we can add on to it over time. And really it's just kind of like our starter living, getting us started in life. But it's just nice not having a landlord, and we're on 7 acres of land, so I don't have any neighbors, and
Nice,
we can drum at 3 in the morning if we want to drum at 3 in the morning.
nice,
We're like, we got to go record right now.
nice. I've always had that idea of just building out a whole lot of small, tiny homes. And
Yes.
just like you have your one main house, and it's like, oh, I've got to go build another tiny home as a
Yes.
podcast studio. Just
Exactly. Yes. And that's kind of what we have now. We have our house, and then we have a little 12 by 16 like shed studio that we built. And now we're in the process of building a proper, it's going to be 1,000 square feet commercial recording studio.
oh,
So
nice,
that's like what we've been working on for the last couple months. And we are like so excited. We got all the studs put up, and like it's really coming along. We're hoping by 2025 we'll be able to get clients in and start recording for other musicians in the area.
nice. That's really cool. It's so you guys are just very DIY doing it yourself.
Absolutely, yeah. We record everything ourselves. My husband is my pedal steel player. He also plays guitar on some of my tracks. My brother-in-law is our drummer. And then I worked at Guitar Center for a long time, and I met my bass player while working at Guitar Center. So we all just kind of clicked. We all lived in the same area, and just kind of started making music. But my husband and I have been together for 12 years, and we started out doing YouTube covers, and then we
Nice.
started slowly buying our own recording equipment and started recording songs and releasing things out into the world. So it's been a long process, but we are DIY to the max, and
Nice.
just love everything that has to do with creating.
Yeah, for sure. You were doing YouTube covers back when I guess it was easier to do because
Yes.
the usage rights and all that stuff weren't as crazy as they are now. And it's like,
Yes, absolutely. And we just kind of did it for fun. It was like we were in the studio and we were like recording, and I was like, let's do this cover real quick, and why not? We'll record it and put it on YouTube. I had never really posted on YouTube before,
mhm,
and that cover ended up getting like 30,000 views, which to me was
wow,
like massive. I was like,
Mhm.
okay, that's a big deal. So we were like, okay, let's be a little bit more serious about this. Let's do more of this.
Yeah. Spe especially once you kind of start hitting that, um, the pay grades and
Yeah.
get your channel monetized, it's like
Yes.
if you're hitting 30,000 views without a blinking, it's like you're not making a
Yeah.
whole lot of money, but you're making decent a
Yes.
little chunk of change.
And my mindset too is like, it would take me so long to get that amount of people to hear my
Mhm.
music just gigging or going and playing venues. It's like you could have one person or have one video that can reach that amount of people. It's
Mhm.
just like, it's super cool.
Yeah.
It's gotten me work that way too. We posted a cover, and this artist, his name's Katavastani, and he's overseas, and he saw my video, but he had done some work on the 50 Shades of Grey film. And he
Oh,
was
well.
like, I produce, I need a vocalist. I like to work with all sorts of different artists. So I got to write several songs for him. And one of the songs ended up getting nominated for a Grammy. And it got like 35 million views on TikTok. It was a
Wow.
really big deal. And I was just like, I recorded this in my bedroom and I just sending them lyrics and vocal top lines, and it was really cool. So you never know. Like a lot of people are like, my videos don't get views, or
Mm.
I hate doing social media, but it's like it just takes one person to see your
Mhm.
video to open up a door for work or, a bigger and better opportunity.
Oh yeah, for sure. I've often said for musicians with as much content as is being made right now, you've got like all these streaming platforms, plus you've still got
Yeah.
all your traditional TVs and cable stations. Sync placements kind
Yes.
of a no-brainer right now.
Absolutely. And we did that as well. I so we when I first started releasing music, it was under a band name called Foxy and the Hairs. And it was very pop, very electronic, but we ended up getting the attention of a company called In the Groove Music, which they do publishing.
Yeah.
And they were like, we can get your songs on TV shows. So we signed up for it, and we've had our songs on MTV Catfish, Teen Mom,
Nice.
Project Runway. We got in our first movie like a year and a half to 2 years ago called The Game of Love, and Bella Thorne's in it. So that was like a really big moment. I was like, wow. And they used our song in the trailer for the film. So it was really, really
Nice.
cool. But like all of that really happened just because we were active on social media and posting, and
Mhm.
people just saw our content and it resonated with them.
Right. Nice. That's really cool. So do you kind of keep that stuff separate from your
Katie
like
Wallace.
your
I
music or
do, yes. So Foxy and the Hairs is really just like fun bubblegum pop
Mhm.
experimental, and I wanted my Katie Wallace music to be more acoustic driven, which it kind of ended up being more technical as time went on. But I really wanted to focus on songwriting at the heart of it, and I didn't feel like I had as much room to do that in the pop world.
Mm.
And I was like, I'm just going to release this as Katie Wallace and just kind of see what happens. And the first song I ended up putting out got on New Music Friday, which like blew my mind because I had been putting out music for years as Foxy and
Mhm.
the Hairs, had our songs on TV shows, but still wasn't getting like playlist placements or anything. And then the first country song I put out, boom, we got on a playlist, and I was just like, you're kidding me. And
Right?
it was a really rewarding feeling. And it was like, okay, let's keep pursuing this. Let's write, which I have so many songs like from like years and years ago, even In the Morning, the one that got on the playlist. I
Mhm.
wrote that song when I was 17 and just
Well,
sat on that song for years and years. And we had put it out on YouTube one time and no one really watched it. So I was like, it must be a dud. It must not
yeah.
be a great song. And then we were like, let's record it. I think it has potential. And it got playlisted. And I was just like, I would have never thought that this song that I wrote so long ago could get playlisted and have its moment now.
Right? Hey, but you know what? You didn't give up on it. Like you weren't just
Yeah.
like you didn't just like throw it away.
Exactly. And now we're going to be recording other songs that I had
Nice.
written from the past. And I'm like, let's just bring them all out of the vault. It's just like, you know, you can have those songs for years, but until people hear it, it's brand new to them. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited about
Nice.
it though.
Because like you're in a prime position to kind of do it right now
Exactly. Yes.
because you're producing your own content.
Yes. Yeah. We write, we record, and produce everything ourselves. So it's really easy for us to get these songs out into the world. And it's just like, I think that's kind of just what you have to do now, and just give people content and
Mm.
slowly build your following from there. But,
Yeah,
which
for sure.
I love getting to record and put new music out into the world. I'm like, yes, let's do it.
For sure. So you mentioned that the first country song that you put out, it got playlisted and all this stuff.
Yes.
Was country something you always saw yourself getting into, or was it just like, let's
Yeah.
try it and see what happens?
So I had always wanted to do a classic country project, and I wanted it to be heavily influenced by artists like Tammy Wynette,
Yeah.
Patsy Cline, Loretta Lynn, and I had always talked about doing that. We had just never sat down and tried to pursue it. And so once my husband and I started working at the Neon Moon, I was like, this is the perfect place that they started booking me for acoustic shows there. And the first time I went in and played like a bunch of pop music, and
Yes.
everyone was like crickets. And I was like, okay, do I suck? Do I give up? And I was like, okay, no, let me just try to learn music that people
Fair.
here want to listen to. It's a
Fair.
honky tonk. And so
Fair.
the next gig I went in and I played all these classic country tunes and then my original songs that sound like classic country, and people just went nuts. And I was like, okay, it's not that I suck. It's just that you got to know where you're playing and
Right.
know your crowd.
Right. So it
So
was like that scene from the Blues Brothers where they go to
yeah,
the honky tonk bar.
yes, exactly. Yes.
Such a classic. As you're like describing it, I'm like,
Yeah.
I bet she was sitting behind chicken wire too,
Yeah. People are like throwing tomatoes at me.
throwing tomatoes and beer
Yeah.
bottles, and it's like,
Yeah.
I don't think they like what we got here, guys. So,
Exactly.
that's
Yes.
great. Oh, so how often are you kind of releasing music right now? I know you just
Yeah.
released a new single on Friday, but
Yes.
yeah.
I'm trying to shoot for between every 6 to 8 weeks.
Mhm.
It seems like that's kind of a good spot to where people are ready to hear a new song. And I'm trying to space things out to where in February I can hopefully release a full length album. I'm trying
Mhm.
to shoot for February 22nd. 222 is a big recurring number in my life. I got married on February 22nd, and that's like my lucky numbers. So that's what we're trying to shoot for. But we've been shooting to do like a single every 6 to 8 weeks, roughly.
Nice. That sounds about right. You know,
Yes.
it's one of those things where trying to figure out that algorithm and all
Yes.
like what
Yes.
works is really hard. So
Exactly. And sometimes it's so weird, the songs that you think people will just flip out and love are the
yeah.
ones that don't get any streams. And then it's like the ones that you sit on for since you're 17 years old and are like, I'm never going to record this, that people end up loving. So that's why I think it's important for artists, if they have the means, to be able to record and get that music out there, to just do it. You just got to put it out and see what hits and what doesn't, and just kind of take a chance.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. Speaking of, nope, not speaking of taking a chance because we're not gonna. But I was, I was gonna try and transition into your new single. I was like, nope, nope, you didn't take a chance on this song. Like, it's a great song. So, uh, talk about a backhanded compliment right there. Uh, but you did release a new single, "Pick and Pecan." Do you say
Yeah.
pecans or pecans?
Pecans, picking pecans.
Fair. I grew up in Chicago, so it's just like,
Yes.
and then I've lived all over the place, so I have no idea what I say anymore. It's just like,
Yes. Yeah, so Pickin' Pecans just came out on Friday, and it's a song about just a Texas day where my husband and I were out walking around on our property, and we just out of nowhere discovered we have this massive pecan tree that we had
Nice.
never noticed before. And I was like, hey, there's pecans. And my husband loves pecans. I'll say pecans. He loves them. And so it just was a fun day, and we didn't even leave our house. And I was like, this was such a beautiful moment. I just want to write about it. And so I was listening to a lot of Willie Nelson at the time, and I wanted to write like a true Texas country waltz and have that just like swaying feel. And I wanted it with the mindset of performing it live and people getting to slow dance with their honeys. So,
Yeah.
but it's out in the world, and I'm super excited about it.
Nice. What's kind of running through your mind now that you're about 4 days out
Into
out?
it?
Yeah.
Yes. So now I'm already just like, okay, what song do I do next? That's literally where my mind's at. It's like, what's next? But still in like the releasing content phase of it. So we'll still be putting out videos. We're trying to get our studio wrapped up, and I'm hoping to be able to do a live in studio video where we can get some really good audio, because most of our stuff has been just live through my iPhone audio, which we know is not great.
Right.
But that's kind of where my mindset is now, is just how to continue further promoting it and which song should we start focusing on next, just to keep the project going.
Right. I'm assuming your pecan tree is dropping pecans.
Yes. Yeah. Usually like November time is when we'll start seeing them.
Right. Because like I live in essentially a pecan orchard at this point, because it's like that we got pecan trees all over the place, and they just drop all over my car, and it annoys the hell out of me because
they're so loud. Yeah. There's one over my mother-in-law's house, and you can just hear it all the time, like falling on her metal roof.
Right. It would almost be really cool if you took like your phone for like TikTok and did like a time lapse of pecans just kind of falling on the ground.
That would be super cool. And I want to go under there and shoot some videos. We talked about doing like a live acoustic session under the pecan tree, and I was like, that would be really cool and fun. So we are for sure going to try to incorporate that into the content too.
Nice. Now, did all that kind of come into play with the release, or was it all just kind of a happy accident that pecans are kind of starting to fall right now and all that?
I did think about that, because I was like, it was this time last year when I wrote the song, and I was like, originally I wanted to release it in summertime. I felt like the feeling of the song was a very summertime feeling song, but the lyric content, I was like, let's wait until it's pecan season. And then I was like, maybe I'll get on like pecan talk or something on TikTok. I don't know. But I was like, let's, it's that time of year. Let's go ahead and finish the song out and release it.
It feels like a fall song to me. Just kind of listening to it, it's like I could definitely see it being a song where it's a cool. We'll say cool, because Texas.
Yes.
As cold as it gets in January, February, Texas doesn't really know what cold is.
Yes, for real.
But on a cool fall winter evening, it just feels like a song that you dance with your significant other at the bar. And
that's exactly what we had in mind. We just wanted a song for couples to get to be together and dance, because that's really, I think, the biggest thing that drives people to these honky tonks. They want to dance. And so I was like, we'll give them a song they can dance to.
Absolutely. So kind of looking forward, how often are you playing shows right now, or are you kind of more focused on releasing? Like, where are you kind of at there?
I currently play around 3 shows a month, but I want to play as often as I can. So it's just a matter of getting booked. It seems like anytime I reach out and try to get booked at a venue, I never hear anything back. All of my gigs have been word of mouth. I will meet an artist who a couple weeks later their opener's sick, and they will reach out and be like, hey, can you come open for me? Or just meet somebody that works at a venue, and then they reach out and they're like, hey, we need an artist, we're doing a summer's concert series. And so it's all been word of mouth, but I want to play as often as I can. I'm hoping 2025 I'll be able to really hit it hard. But
Mm.
this was a big year for me. I went from playing 0 shows in 2022 or 2023 to this year. I think we'll have played like 18 or 19 shows,
Mhm.
because more are getting added still throughout the year. So
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, we'll see what that number ends up being at the end of the year. But I was adding it up the other day, and I was at 15, and then a few more got added. So
Nice, nice.
yeah, so it's
I,
exciting.
right. I've recently just started looking into like booking shows and trying to firm up venues for different things.
Yeah.
We've been playing around with an idea for like a live podcast that we could do at like bars or, venues and
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah.
And it like it's hard for musicians to get booked. And then I
Yeah.
try and explain what I'm trying to do, and they hear the
Yeah.
podcast, and it's like it's
No.
actually really good. It's actually really good for businesses because
Yeah.
not only am I bringing in 5 to 6 musicians for you to look at to book
Yes.
further down line, but so
Yeah. Then they'll bring in their fans, and then you're getting their audience outside of just going into their establishment.
Mhm.
People are going to be listening to something recorded there and
Yep.
reaching new people. So
Yep. 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 Uh, we've got one show booked up in November, and I was telling a buddy of mine because I was down in New Braunfels a couple weeks ago,
oh yeah.
at a music festival, and I was just kind of talking to one of my buddies. I was like, "Yeah, I've been trying to book out this idea, and nobody seems to really get it, which is
Yeah.
fine. Like, all I need is my one shot to be like, okay, this, and once I get that like
Yes. Yes.
firm thing in, people kind of figure it out relatively quickly." And he's like, dude, that's a great idea. Once you get that first episode, and I mean, we've done it a
Yeah.
couple times, but the quality of the recording wasn't quite there. So it was just like, I
Yeah.
don't want to send them like these hack, yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. You want it to be like pristine and
yeah,
yeah.
or at least presentable,
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's been a fun experience, and I sympathize with the struggle of musicians trying to book their own
Yes.
gigs.
It's so tough, but I just am super excited to have played the shows I have this year. And it's just a really rewarding feeling to get booked in that way. It makes you feel wanted. It's like,
Yeah,
oh, I'm doing something right.
right.
So it's nice.
Nice. And are you primarily playing around Texas or?
Yes. So all of my gigs have been in Texas. I have played a lot in Tyler. Of course, I played at the Neon Moon in Yantis a
Yeah.
lot. I did get to go out to Lufkin, and I played the Texas State Forest Festival,
Oh,
which
well.
was insane. There was thousands of people there, and I was not expecting that, and so it was really really cool, and a really awesome experience. But I would like to go get outside of Texas eventually, but primarily just focusing on Texas right now.
Nice. That's really cool. It's real. I really love like the Texas music scene just in general and the
Yes.
ecosystem they have built here.
Yes, absolutely. And like there's really not a better place for me for the type of music I'm doing.
Mhm.
I could go to Nashville, but it's a different type of country scene, and I don't know how welcoming they would be to classic country, like, possibly if I was in the right place. But it seems like, for the type of country music I'm doing, this is the perfect place to be, and people
Yeah.
want to hear that kind of country music. So
Oh yeah. Well, I think it's actually kind of interesting because I think Nashville is looking for that classic Texas sound right now.
really.
It's because like I've seen a lot of people from Texas that
Yeah.
have kind of like a classic Texas sound or a red dirt sound, and they
Yeah.
go out to Nashville and they make a little bit of noise, and you're starting to see that migration. But I
In yeah.
yeah, but I really think you're going to start seeing like an open highway open up. So
That would be
from
amazing.
like Nashville to Austin, it's really not that bad of a drive. Like if you're
Yeah.
talking like a band wanting to book a tour, you could probably
Yes.
book, what would you say,
All
like
the
a
way.
6-day tour all the way down to San
Yeah.
Antonio?
Yes. Yeah. That would be amazing. And that's definitely something that I would like to do. And there's an artist that I am trying to get booked with for a spring tour. Hopefully, we're working
Nice.
with a person to try to help us get booked with that. So we're
Nice.
hoping that there'll be at least a week and a half tour in 2025.
Nice. That's cool. Touring. So, and you've not really ever played outside of Texas?
No, not really. I lived in Arizona for a little bit, so I played a few gigs there. I was going to go to music school in Arizona, and I got out there, and it was too hot for me. And I mean, Texas is hot, like, so that's saying a lot. But I was like, I got sunburned getting in my car from my house, so I was like, it's just not the place for me. But yeah, I've never really ventured outside of Texas for gigs. It's all just been primarily Texas based.
Fair. Yeah, Arizona. Oof. Yeah,
Yes,
like
it's
I've been
kind of heat.
I've been out to Vegas in July, which is like the worst idea ever. I've been into
Yeah.
Arizona in July, worst idea ever.
Yes, and that's when I moved there. I moved there in May, and then I think it was like September when I was like, I'm going back home. I got so homesick, and I was really young too, so I immediately was like, I got to get back to Texas.
Fair. So you consider Texas your home, or?
I really do. I have been back to Indiana one time in my adult life, or since I left. So everything I have memories of is really Texas. I have a few childhood memories from Indiana, but I've spent pretty much my entire life in Texas, so I consider it home.
Nice. Fair enough. It's like, I think once you turn like 10, that's when the real core memories start to come in.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, for sure. And really, like, 10 to 16, I would say, were like my really big developing years, and that's when I really started writing music and trying to pursue music, and like, so that's what I have the most memories of is from that age group, that age bracket.
Nice. Now in Indiana, you grew up in a suburb of Indianapolis, right? Is that?
Yes. It's like 20 to 40 minutes outside of Indianapolis.
Okay.
Which I don't know that I ever went. I mean, my parents probably took me to Indianapolis. I don't remember. I do remember when we moved, right before we moved to Texas, they were like, we have to take Katie to Nashville to go see the Grand Ole Opry. And so I got to go do that. It was really cool. And I do have like small memories of that. But that's really about it. I remember it being really cold in the winter and really nice in the summertime.
You know what though? If nobody's ever experienced a fall in the Midwest, like
it's
it's something else. Like,
it's beautiful. Yes. And that's for sure what I miss the most, because I do remember having like a proper fall and snow at Christmas time. So that took a little bit of an adjustment. I think our first Texas here, it was 80 degrees on Christmas Day. So I was like, where's the snow?
I got over the snow real quick. Like, when I left here, or when I left, so I grew up in Chicago. I was born on the north side and then grew up in the south suburbs. And when I left, I went down to school, and we still had snow in southern Illinois, which is a bit further south. But after that, I've basically been south of, Tennessee for the most part of my life. So,
Yes. I think I would have a different feeling about snow if I would have had to like drive in it and work in it, but I was a little kid, so all I had to do was go play in the snow. But it's definitely different when you're like, I have to go to work and shovel snow off of my car and sidewalk just to be able to leave my house.
Right. It's one of those things where when I hear snow on the radar or ice or anything around here, I call my work. I was like, hey, until this stuff clears, I'm working remote. Like, it ain't happening.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
And it's not because I don't know how to drive in snow. Like, I learned how to drive in snow.
Yes.
But it's different when the roads are properly treated.
They're not treated here. Yes, exactly. And I do the same thing. I mean, usually people will close for that day and that sort of thing. They'll be like, hey, don't risk it, stay home, we're not even going to open, because they know
Yeah.
there's not going to be anyone driving.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So, outside of music, what do you like to do,
do.
get into?
I do all sorts of things. I'm really into gardening. I veggie garden. So I've been growing squash. I just planted a bunch of lettuce for the fall. I'm building a greenhouse.
Nice.
So I have a green thumb. I love plants and nature. And then I'm a big video game player. I'm currently playing Elden Ring, which I love, and that's taking up most of my time right now.
Fair, fair.
Yes.
What console are you on?
I have PS5.
Okay.
I also have a PS3 and like an Xbox 360, an older one.
Yeah.
So, but we just got the PS5 this year, and I've played Elden Ring on the Xbox, and I loved it so
Yeah.
much that I had to rebuy it, and
Yeah.
so now I'm starting from the ground up, but on a
Fair.
nicer console with better graphics, and so
Right.
it's like, oh, it's like
Nice.
brand new all over again.
Right. I have to upgrade. Like I have to like really get
Yeah,
back into video. Like I used to up until I was in like 2013, I was like
yeah.
really into video games, and then I got into a pinch, and I was like, I kind of need $150, so I'm gonna sell this PS3,
Yes, yes.
and
We've
then
all been there. I've been
yeah,
there too.
and I just never got like really back into it. Like every once in a while,
Yes.
I'd go to like a used game store and I'd go pick up like a PlayStation 1 or a PlayStation 2
Yeah.
and then play it for a while and then be like, okay, I'm over it and sell it. Just kind of
Exactly. Yes.
yeah,
My husband really got me into gaming. Like I had played games growing up. My brothers were big
yeah,
gamers, but it wasn't really until we got Elden Ring that I was like fully immersed in a game and have spent probably close to 300 hours playing this
right,
game. So it's really fun,
right,
but it is time consuming.
right. For me, it's just one of those things where I really need that one thing where it keeps my mind busy, but I can kind of shut
Yes.
everything off.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's for sure what Elden Ring can be like for me. If I don't want to really like fight or do combat, I'll just kind of run around on my horse,
Yeah,
or like collect things. I'll be like, oh, I got a new sword,
right, right,
that
right.
sort of thing. But it's a good distraction when I'm really stressed. I just go run around in some video games.
Yeah. Because, like I've definitely been in them situations where it became very addictive, where instead of going out at night, it'd be like, oh, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to play video games for the next 8 hours.
Yes, yes, yes. And that's definitely kind of the boat I'm in at this moment because we got our bass player. He just got a PlayStation. And so we were like, you have to get Elden Ring. So now we're doing multiplayer and we're showing him how to become Elden Lord.
That's
it's
great.
it's so fun, but we're all like on our headsets every night and just like, okay, now you gotta go here and you gotta do this, and we're getting him through the game. So
Nice.
it's super fun.
Nice. But there's a community within it. Like
Yes.
it's cool. Like like it's not the weird thing like it was back in the late 90s where it's just like
Yeah.
two kids sitting in their basement playing Super
Exactly.
Nintendo.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, there's a massive like cult following for Elden Ring, and like there's just so many things you can do in that game
Mhm.
too. And now I want to go back and play like older From Software games, like the Dark Souls games and stuff like that. So it's definitely sucked me
That's
in.
cool. That's really cool. So I don't want to keep you here too much longer because I just realized what time it was. Um, but your new song "Pickin' Pecans" is up on Spotify. If anybody wants to check that out, I'll make sure I put the description in the description below. Sorry,
Awesome.
my tongue got a little tied there.
Mine does too, all the time.
If anybody wants to check out shows, social media, any of that fun stuff, where's the best place to find you?
KatieWallaceMusic.com. My website will have everything. It's got links to all my socials. I'm on everything. I need to do Twitter or X now, but that's the only thing that I really am not active on.
Yes. Are you active on Threads?
I am. I'm on Threads right now. I've just got it set up to where pretty much it just shares what I post
Mhm.
on Instagram there. But I'm trying to be more active and post additional things so people have a reason to find
Yeah.
me on Threads
Right.
outside of the Instagram world.
I will go ahead and tell you the trick to Threads because I've kind of figured it out.
Uh-huh.
Is imagine if you had to tweet out your Google searches, and
Okay.
that's kind of how you need to phrase your or position your
On
posts on Threads.
post on Threads. Okay, I'm gonna give that a try.
It
I saw I had like 200 followers on there, and I'm like,
mm,
I haven't been doing anything, so
right,
I was like, okay, let's go
right.
Threads.
Well, because what I found out is the algorithm isn't really triggered by like hashtags or anything like that.
Okay.
It's just kind of triggered by like keywords,
Yes.
which is really interesting. And
Yeah.
I just threw something out the other day and I'd asked a question. And all of a sudden, I had like 67 something responses or likes or yeah.
Wow. Yes. Yeah.
I was
I'm gonna
like,
give that a
right.
try.
So, but once again, thank you so much for joining us. Really
Yes.
appreciate it. This was
Thank
an
you for
absolute.
having me. This was my first podcast interview.
Well, you are a natural. You need to do more of them.
Oh, thank you.
Maybe you and your husband need to start a podcast or something.
Yes, I people tell me all the time. They're like, "You have a radio voice," and I would love to do that. I just can't figure out what kind of podcast I would want to do. So that is something I'm for sure gonna try to get into in the future.
Nice. Awesome. But once again, thank you all so much for joining us. If you want to check out Katie Wallace, the link to her Spotify is in the description below, and her new song Pickin' Pecans. Once again, thank you all so very much, and we will catch you later.
Thank you.
Awesome.